This is life and enterprise management. And so as a result, we want to make sure we work on both. We want to create a system that allows you to succeed in both areas, life and your enterprise. By the way, which one would you say is more valuable? Which one? That's not how most people live the game. Most people make it the enterprise. And as they make it the enterprise, they wake up and they have a tremendous amount of economic success if they're successful. And what's ironic is what makes you successful may not make you fulfilled. And so there's a big pull in our culture to go for what's most successful, what will reward you culturally with respect or acknowledgement or stars on your chart or economic rewards, thinking that will give us freedom. But how many of you have been very successful in business and not been free, i.e., your business, as it got more successful, demanded even more from you? How many have had this experience? Say aye. So what I want to really make sure that comes out of this is an evaluation of what your real gifts are that are going to fulfill you. Because many of you are living a script around your life that involves having an enterprise when really that may not be your true nature. That's not to say you can't do it. It just means you can do it and you'll be stressed out of your life, stressed out of your mind. And so one of the things we want to find out is how much of that is natural as a problem, how much of that is maybe unnatural. Unnatural meaning you're having problems right now that you shouldn't be having at this stage of development. Think about it. If a child is brand new and they have a problem with controlling their bladder, that's a natural problem, isn't it? But if you're 50 and you have this problem, you got a challenge. If a brand new business has a cash flow challenge, it's a problem, but it's a natural problem. If it's a business that's been around 5 or 10 years and it's got a cash flow problem, you got a real abnormal problem. Maybe you got a problem that's even life-threatening to the business. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Sometimes those problems have to do with the fact that you don't understand the stage of development you're in. The most important element is for you to be able to do this, to be able to establish, most importantly, where you really are in your life today. Where are you? And where do you really want to go? What's going to create this extraordinary life? And to look at it brand new. Because some of you right now, if you continue the direction you're going, are going to be successful and unfulfilled, unhappy, and stressed. Because once we get, into a dream, then that dream starts to take on a life of its own. It gives us juice, it gives us energy. But how many of you ever got the dream, achieved your goal, and then thought, is this all there is? How many of you have this experience? Say aye. That's more painful than not even achieving it. Because now you've done everything, you've worked it out, and you're successful, and you're not happy. So for some of you, you're going to need to take a look at that. Michael Gerber, the guy that wrote the E-Myth, talks about why so many young businesses fail. And one of the things he says is most people are not really entrepreneurs, but they think that's what they should be. They think that's the sexy thing. That's the most attractive thing. That's the best answer. And what I say to you is you got to separate the vehicle from the outcome. What is it that's going to truly fulfill you? What is it that's going to give you that extraordinary life? What's going to make things magnificent on your terms, not somebody else's terms, not your father, your mother, your background? What is that really? Separate the vehicle, because there's many ways to get to that vehicle. I was here in town just the other day, and I met a gentleman over here, Steve Wynn's a good friend of mine, who started, who basically built most of Las Vegas. And he built just recently, the Wynn Casino, not a few years back, $2.7 billion hotel. The most expensive individual building ever individually financed. Give you an idea, the first estimates on the rebuilding of the World Trade Centers were 1.7 billion, 2.6 billion for a hotel, right? This man has the ability to take large risks, and he has the ability to really succeed in a major way. But I bring that up because I was in town, and for our new home, we have these hot springs, we're getting some really large crystals, and there's a guy in town who has this crystal shop, right? But you gotta make an appointment to see the guy. And it's unbelievable. So I get to know him and talk to him and find out he's great friends with Steve. He's been skiing with Steve for 20 years. This guy used to have this business. He sold the business, didn't actually make that much money, but he was tired of the stress of the business. And he said, I'm just going to do what I love. And what I love to do is ski every day. So what he did was he started this little crystal business, made plenty of money, in this little business, had set aside some money from his previous business, and he gets up every day and skis, has a blast, and he has this unbelievable lifestyle. Because, he's Steve Wynn's guest everywhere. He flies on a Gulfstream, doesn't have to pay for it, right? Doesn't pay the insurance, doesn't have to pay for the fuel, doesn't worry about maintenance, managing it, or anything. And he's telling me about all these things he does in his life, and he has a $1 billion lifestyle, billionaire's lifestyle. But he's structured his life in a way that's fulfilling, where he has time for his grandkids, where he has time for his wife, where he has time for his passions. But he just does it in a different way. He had this big dream, he said, of making this gigantic business, and all it did was stress him out. Now, I'm not saying that's the answer for you, but I'm saying sometimes you got to reevaluate what's going to really make you fulfilled. What is your gift? Are you an artist? Are you the talent that can produce something no one else produces as a skill or a product or a service or some impact? Are you incredibly good at management? You really know how to manage or lead people? Are you an extraordinary entrepreneur that can take that gigantic gut load of risk and can create the vision and attract the talent that you need and the managers and leaders? You may have all three abilities, but which one really fulfills you the most is going to be the critical question. Because we tend to want to do them all, especially in a room like this, because you're all overachievers, right? Me too. And you say, well, I can do all these. Yes, you can, but what will it do to your quality of life? See, again, the secret's going to be this. What is an extraordinary life on your terms today? Normally, when I'm trying to explain to someone what is an extraordinary quality of life, it's different for everybody, right? Really, an extraordinary life is life on whose terms for you? And so everybody in this room has a different model of the world of what that would look like. What would be an even more magnificent life? What would be an even more extraordinary life? There's only two master skills to do this, and I want to remind you of those two skills because it's still the two skills for life. What's the first master skill to having an extraordinary life? Do you remember? It's the science of achievement. If you're going to have an extraordinary life, one of the master skills for actually creating that life is mastering this. Mastering the ability to take what you envision and make it real. There's a science to achievement. There's a science to, for example, money. I just spent 4 years, as most of you know, interviewing 50 of the smartest people on the planet financially. I learned more than I ever imagined. I got a PhD in finance from the people that control the world economy. And they're all people that were not part of the lucky sperm club. I didn't interview anybody that got it from their family by birthright. I did it with people that all started with nothing. And I began to see there's common patterns. And once you know what those patterns are, I don't care if you're young or old. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what country you're from. If you understand the science of building wealth, you can have abundance financially. If you violate those rules, either because you're ignorant to them or because you just don't apply them, you're going to have financial stress. There's a science to the body. Everyone here is biochemically different, but there's certain fundamental rules, laws, that if you violate them, you're going to have a lack of energy. If you really violate them, you're going to have dis-ease in the body. That's what it means, dis-ease. It comes from violating those rules. If you align with the rules of achievement around the body, you'll have an abundance of energy. You'll feel strong. You'll have an extraordinary body and the extraordinary energy that comes with it. So, science of achievement is something most of you are quite obsessed by, or you wouldn't get to a room like this. But there's a second master skill to have an extraordinary life, and that second skill is the art of fulfillment. When I talk about the art of fulfillment, what I explain to people always is, I didn't say science of fulfillment. Why not? Because it's different for everyone, just like art. What one person thinks is beautiful, somebody else might think is ugly. So if you want to know what's beautiful, as many people there are on earth, it's an art because everyone has a different view. If you want to know what God loves, the universe loves, go to the forest and see it. It's called massive diversity. It isn't a science. It's an art. But that art, unmastered, will create an ugly life. An ugly life. And the phrase I use most often that I hope you've heard me say and you take it in once again maybe deeper is, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. But if we don't physically make a decision how we're going to live, then we'll show up like everybody else because the human mind is not going to make you happy. This brain of yours won't do it. You have to direct it. And there's no worse fate than to achieve everything and not be fulfilled. How many have had the days where you achieved this huge goal and your brain always wanted it and you got it and then your brain went, is this all there is? Who's been there? It's the worst experience. It's worse than failing, isn't it? Because most of you are achievers, so failure never stops you. You just look at it as a little bump on the road. I'll try something, what? But when you succeed and you fail, when you succeed and you're not fulfilled, that's scary. You don't get beyond scarcity, you start beyond it. You don't get beyond scarcity, you start beyond it. And the way you start beyond scarcity is every day you build your wealth. And the way I'd like you to do that is I'd like you to start getting the habits of capturing magic moments. My girl's done that with our nieces that are here in the room, but they call them romantic moments because it's a girl thing. And all of a sudden they'll go, Auntie, this is a romantic moment. They have this little celebration in that moment. But if you stack those moments over and over again, see, the quality of your life has almost nothing to do with how much money you have, truthfully. No, don't get me wrong. Money can give you lots of options. Money is portable power. Without money, you can feed people. Without money, you can change things. Without money, you can start a company. Without money, you can do things for your family. Without money, you can go where the fuck you want, when you want, where you want, how you want. Great tool. But that's all it is a tool. Because if you think it's more than a tool and you think it's a source of your happiness, you're going to miss all the shit along the way. Because everyone in this room, we're all doing one thing in common. No matter how aligned our lives are or different than they are, we're all traveling through time together. And that traveling time is like that river out there. It does not stop. And sometimes feels slower and faster than others, but that traveling through time. And everyone here is going through the process of aging. Everyone here is going through the process of shifting life. The question is, how much of life are you living along the way? Are you truly rich, or do you just have some money? Or do you not have money and you don't have wealth? I know people have money who are very poor. I know people have lots of money that are very rich. The difference is how they are in their relationships, how they are in their sense of spirit, how they are in capturing the moments. So you have to decide right now to be rich, not when you get to a certain number. You got to decide right now, I'm a wealthy mother, or whatever appropriate language would be for you. But when you operate from you're already beyond, you're not trying to get beyond the scarcity. If you're always operating in scarcity, I got to try to get somewhere, that's bullshit. I'm here, and there's the mountain I'm taking next. That's very different than I'm going to try to get to that place when I can finally be enough, certain enough, happy enough, free enough, excited enough. And the truth is, when most of the things you get to where they are, it's nothing like you thought it was going to be. Who's achieved some huge goal, you got it, you're excited, and then for how long? Who can think of a goal that you just busted for, you got it, and you really were excited about it? How long did that feeling last for that situation? How long? A minute? Seconds? A month? Who can remember something that you really were excited about, and within 6 months to a year max, you were taking it for granted? Let me see your hands. That's the way the human brain works. That's the way the mind works. The heart doesn't work that way. The heart, when it's there, it doesn't forget. It's one thing that's going to make you wealthy. It's turning your expectation into appreciation. That's the day you become wealthy. The day you trade expectation for appreciation is the day you become wealthy. Because as long as you're expecting things, you're going to be disappointed. You're expecting people to be a certain way. They're not going to be. If the only time you're happy is when they all act and behave a certain way, you're not going to be happy very much. Or if you're happy, it'll be for a short period of time. You expect your spouse to be a certain way. You expect your kids to be a certain way. You expect your coworkers to be a certain way. You expect yourself to be a certain way. How about appreciation? That's the game. Because if you can appreciate the littlest things, you got gifts that nobody else has. So the first place to be wealthy is psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that place has to get regular deposits. And that means, just like some of you meditate, you need a daily discipline of magic moments, and you got to learn to capture the little ones. And that muscle's got to be built. So what's your daily practice? You can call it whatever you want. We'll call it here magic moments. Every day I want you to capture at least 2 to 3 magic moments minimum. It could have been a conversation with a friend. It could have been a moment when an insight happened. It could have been a moment on the mountain. It could have been a little insight or distinction that you got that changed it. But you don't just capture it and write it down. You want to feel it and realize its value. You want to feel it like it's grace, like it's a gift that's been given to you. And what you're doing is appreciating that gift.
Ultimately, if you're going to have lasting change in anything, you're really talking about just raising your standards. I mean, I always tell people, if you want to know how to change your life, I give it to you in 3 words, boring as it sounds: raise your standards. And what does that mean? corny as it sounds. Raise your standards. Oh, thank you for the breakthrough thought, Tony. I'm glad I wasted my time watching this little email with you. But think about it. Lasting change is different than a goal. You don't always get your goals, but you always get your standards. Maybe it would help you is to think about it this way. I try to explain standards to people with a different set of words. Think of it as everybody in life gets their musts. They don't get their shoulds. Like, think about it. Most people have a list of shoulds, don't they? Don't you have a list of the shoulds, things you should do, you should follow through on? I should lose some weight, I should work out more, I should make more calls, I should respond more rapidly to my email, whatever, you know? I should get into the office earlier, I should be, more confident. Whatever your should list is, people love to have their should list be met, but it's kind of like New Year's resolutions. If it does, it's really exciting, but if it doesn't, which is most of the time, it's a little disappointing, but you kind of know it's not going to happen. But when you decide something is a must for you, an absolute must, when you cut off any possible, you say, I'm going to find the way or I'm going to make the way. Human beings, when they resolve things, when they make a real resolution inside themselves, which is they raise the standard and they make it a must, they find the way. Think about it in your own life. Haven't you had some area of your life where you raise your standard and your life has never been the same? Maybe at one time in your life you smoked cigarettes, or you did something and you did it for years and you kept trying to change it and kept telling yourself I should. And then one day something happened. Something just clicked you over. Something took you over that kind of tipping point. And inside yourself you said no more. And it was a very, very different experience, wasn't it? Something inside of you shifted. And what was a should became a must, and you've never gone back. Is there an area like that in your life you can think of? Again, did you ever smoke cigarettes? Did you ever eat a certain way, drink a certain form of alcohol, and then finally say no more, and you just don't go back? And notice this, it doesn't really take any willpower anymore. Because somewhere when we make this click, when we make something a must, we attach ourselves to it. It becomes part of our identity. And one thing I've learned in the last, 33 years of working with people from now over 100 countries, 4 million people, is human beings absolutely follow through on who they believe they are. If you said to me, well, I'm really going to work hard to stop smoking, but I've been a smoker my whole life and I am a smoker. I know your days are numbered. You're going to be back smoking cigarettes again, because we all act consistent with who we believe we are. I tell people the strongest force in the whole human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. If you define yourself as somebody who is really conservative, you're not going to be crazy and act nuts unless you're really drunk or something, and then you can say it's the alcohol, when it's really just you finally getting permission to be yourself. The alcohol is your excuse. If you're a really crazy person, you act crazy, outrageous, playful. You don't act conservative because that's not who you are. Very often people say, well, I can't do that. I'm not that kind of person. And I always say to people, really, when did you define yourself? I mean, really, how many years ago did you come up with what you could and couldn't do in your life? How many years ago? Most people, if they really look at how they're living their life today, it's based on a set of standards, a set of beliefs that they made choices about 10, 20, 30 or more years ago. I mean, very often we made decisions in our youth or very young about what to believe, about what we were capable of, about who we are as a person, and that becomes the glass ceiling, if you will, that controls us. There's a corny metaphor, but it's true. I remember one time I was with my family at the circus, and there was a person there, and they had this big, giant elephant. And you look at this elephant, and they take this little rope, put it around the elephant's neck, and they drive this stake into the ground. And I mean, you look at this, and you know that elephant could rip down the entire tent with almost no effort. And yet, the elephant doesn't struggle, doesn't try. Why? Because the elephant's conditioned. And they take that elephant and condition the elephant when it's a baby elephant. That's how they train them. When it's a little baby elephant and it doesn't have the power yet, they put a big rope around it and they drive this huge stake in the ground, and the elephant fights and fights and fights. And one day, finally, that elephant decides, I'm not capable of pulling this out. And once that becomes the definition of an identity of anyone, an elephant in this case, they don't even try anymore. It's just who I am, that's how it is, that's just the way it is in my life. I'd like to ask you to take a look at any place you've got a limitation and ask yourself, when did I decide to accept that limitation? And you may not even see it as a limitation. You might see it as just that's who I am. But so often in our lives, we've adapted to be a certain way so that we don't fail or so that people will like us or respect us, but it's not necessarily who we are. Joy comes when you're spontaneous. It's really hard to be truly happy when you're not being yourself. And most of us have no clue who we are. And so a big part of my work, if you've ever been to an event, you know, is to get people to do things spontaneously without thinking, because that's when the real you shows up. That's when the energy comes alive. And when you do that, when you start to connect to your true nature, suddenly there's energy available for you to set a higher standard for what you want in your life. That's what this is really all about. And when I talk about standards, when I talk about, shoulds versus musts, think about your own life. I know there have been areas in your life where some point in time you just shifted and you raised the standard and your life changed. Because whatever people have their identity attached to, they live. We live who we believe we are. That's just how it works. It's just kind of like, I'll give you an example. Look at your physical body. Your physical body today is an absolute reflection of only one thing. Not your goals, not your desires, but your standards. The identity you have for yourself. If your standard is you're an athlete, then there's a certain amount of strength, a muscle tone, and energy that's available in your body on a regular basis because that's who you are. And so you do whatever's necessary to maintain that identity. Again, the strongest force in the human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Because if you don't know who you are, you wouldn't know how to act. Once you lock in on that identity, your brain finds a way to keep you there. If you say, man, I'm overweight, I've always been overweight, I'm big boned, and that's the story you've got, then you're going to always find a way to get back there. That's your settling point. That's your identity. That's where things lock in. If you see somebody who's in really great shape, you ask them, do you work out? You know the answer. Yes. How often? And they'll tell you 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, whatever. In a seminar, I'll ask people, who here works out at least 5 days a week? And I'm stand up. And you look around that room, and you know that they work out 5 times a week because you can see their body. You don't just get a result without some kind of action, without some form of ritual. Ritual meaning actions you do consistently. Now, do you think those people that are out there working out 5 days a week, do they have more time than you do? Or I have, or anybody else? Of course not. Is their life less busy? Of course not. It's just a must for them. They must work out that way, and they've made that turn and their life's changed. So I'm not saying you have to work out 5 days a week. I'm just saying whatever you really want, wants don't get met consistently. Standards do. Whatever you identify, this is who I am. And so it's not so much about changing your identity as there's expanding it. Deciding that, instead of your goal is to lose 10 pounds, which is not compelling, what if your vision was to get back to my fighting weight? This year, this month, this next 90 days, I'm going to transform my body. I'm going to take on a new challenge. I'm going to find some technique or strategy, there's a million of them, that can reframe myself where I want to feel younger, stronger, more vibrant than ever before. Here's my reasons. Because I want the energy to really make my life work. Because it's tough out there, and I want to be stronger than I've ever been before. I want to go in front of the mirror, and if I'm naked, not, want to laugh. I want to look there and take a good look and go, yeah, I'm proud of whatever I see there. Whatever it takes, something's going to make you laugh, smile, something that's going to tease yourself, but something's going to move you to another level. If you identify yourself in a new way and you own that every day, and that becomes the standard of how you live, you'll find the way to make that standard real. Money's the same way. Think about it. It doesn't matter what's happening, quote unquote, in the marketplace. People that make money find a way to make money no matter what, don't they? I mean, most people's standard is to pay their bills. So that's what most people find a way to do, even when economic times get tough. Most people, if that's their absolute standard, they find a way. Some people's standard is pay their bills most of the time. And so most of the time they do. Some people's standard is not just to pay their bills, but to take care of their family and maybe even some of their friends. And they find a way. In fact, some people may be in a family where they don't have enough money. They barely have money to pay their bills. They work their guts out. And then somebody, their mother, their father, somebody else, their sister gets ill, and there's not enough money to take care of it. Nobody else has money in the family. They don't either, but they find a way to get that money to take care of their mother or father, don't they? And pay their bills. They never could do it before. Why? The situation made them raise their own standard. And not everybody does that. Somebody else in the family might have money and still not take care of their mother. It all comes down to the inner game, my friends. Changing your life is a change in the inner game. The outside world you can't control, but you have absolute control over this one if you learn the dynamics of what shapes you. And identity is one of those simple, clear, fundamental basics that if you start to shift it, everything else will shift in your life.